Sorry, my glasses have a glare because I don't have my. Okay, hi, my name is Celina Villalobos, and I'm here at Cal Poly because it was my choice. Today my topic is on military recruiting. I'm not sure if any of you remember, like in high school, like the recruits coming to the school and bringing like a bar and trying to see how strong you guys were and do pull-ups and things like that. I personally do, and I always wondered why I didn't pay more attention to them or even get involved in the military versus going for education first. Today my major claim is military recruiting in high schools targets inexperienced youth. My three secondary claims are military recruiting in high schools distracts students from learning or pursuing a higher education. My second one is recruitment on high school campuses results in recruits that cannot meet military standards. And lastly, recruitment fails to disclose the complete consequences of the military life. So addressing my first claim, the focal point for students' future becomes military and not so much what my options are with school or even a job, because some people do get lucky and you can actually get a good job without having any kind of degree. And according to the United States Army Recruiting Command and School Recruiting Program Handbook, the military's recruiting policy of first to contact, which is laid out in detail in the Army's SRP handbook, which I said earlier, states that if military recruiters wait until high school students are seniors, it's probably too late to recruit them. So right there, I personally took it as if, just because I took it more as if I'm in high school, I really don't know what the real world's all about, which because we realize now as adults that we kind of didn't know what to expect, that's why they tell you got to do them or you got to get them when they're in high school because they don't know. And secondly, and I can just say that convincing new people to join the armed forces means competing with other post-secondary education and career opportunities that are available to them and asking high school students to defer or forego to college. Not only that, but I think that the privacy of students is invaded because according to JAMRS database, which is the Joint Advertising and Market Research Recruiting Database, it currently holds information on more than 30 million young people and includes information such as course of study, grade point average, schools attended, college intentions, social security numbers, and ethnicity. All that information for me can only be used to recruit those who may not have the same opportunities as others. And I just think that it puts them, all that information just opens the door for them to really nitpick at who possibly has no future versus someone else. For my second claim, recruitment on high school campuses results in recruits that cannot meet military standards. For instance, you'll have unstable soldiers because they don't know what they're dealing with, and you'll have mental and physical disabilities that are increasing yearly. According to the Denver Post, since the military actions in Iraq and Afghanistan began in 2002, over 1.5 million troops have seen combat. Of these soldiers, 29,320 were wounded, and some sources estimate that 10 to 20% suffer from traumatic brain injuries. And like I said, you're also going to find unstable soldiers or recruits or soldiers from those who go to high schools to recruit them. And according to Jim Michaels from the U.S. Today, the quality of military recruits has increased to its highest level in almost 2 decades, partly because of the tough civilian job market and a more stable Iraq. And for me, with that being published by U.S. Today, it just tells you that there's a high standard for those who need to get into the military, and if you're just going to go to a high school with students that really don't know anything, because I personally believe that now, being out of high school for so many years, you understand more or less that at that young age, you don't know what to expect. So how are you going to expect to know how to be in the military? And he also states that the decrease in waivers is an indication that demand among young people for the military has increased, so that recruiters are less willing to make exceptions for recruits who don't meet standards. So again, if it's being shown that there's a high standard and you have to qualify, why are you going there? Why are you going to high school? You don't know nothing. Sorry, you just don't. And lastly, for my last claim, recruitment fails to disclose the complete consequences of the military life. It's been said that the war is portrayed glamorous. This is something that I didn't cite, but it's just a personal opinion. I don't know if you realize that a lot of men who join the military tend to get married after like a year or 2 years. I don't know if any of you are in that situation, but I find that very common. And I don't understand why, but I know it's because of the benefits that are offered by the military. And according to the CBS News, recruitment officers often give misleading pitches. And they play up the excitement of chances to travel, as well as the pay and benefits such as college fees, training and special skills. They don't talk about the dangers of military life, the casualty rates in Iraq and Afghanistan, or the thousands of young soldiers who have lost limbs in recent years. And not to mention, they don't mention the impact of war on soldiers' mental health, like I said, lack of support when they leave the military. And if we must have the military in our schools, then they should be made to give a much more realistic view of military life. And all of this is why military recruiters have received a reputation of being like used car salesmen. But lastly, I think this one hits close to home for females, being that I'm a female. Females are not informed of the dangers of sexual assault. You assume that you're gonna be Wonder Woman, but about 23% of women veterans using health care from the Department of Veterans Affairs, which is known as VA, report sexual assaults while in the military. And that percentage is too big for me. But in conclusion, I do have to say that military recruiting in high schools manipulates and takes away from a young adult or the youth from pursuing any kind of occupation or lifestyle because of all the broken promises. Thank you.
All right, I think you need a clear claim of what you mean by inexperience in the proposition. There's a glaring inconsistency between a couple of your points. At one point, you're saying that people are too stupid to know what the hell they're doing, and at another point, you're saying, hey, the quality of these people is so good, so why the heck aren't they going to college? I don't get how this inconsistency can be valid given the argument that you're presenting. You acknowledge the insufficiency of evidence on a few of your points. You make some big inferences about what the recruiting manual means. I think that that's a little bit problematic. That last quote from CBS News, this is probably the clearest piece of evidence that you have, but it's not clear which part was quoted from CBS News and which part was your inference. That needed to be a lot more specific because that's the first opinion, at least somewhat authoritative opinion, that seems to be directly supporting the position that you're taking. And like I said, I couldn't tell where the quote started and ended, and that needs to be a lot more definitive. The one statistic that you had was on sexual assaults, and I thought that was a good statistic, talking about a potential danger there in the military. And the notion that those sorts of dangers are not discussed, I think, needs to be documented a little bit more. I wouldn't assume that that would be one of the things that they would advertise, but if it was an issue or question, it might be something that's talked about. But I didn't hear any data that says it's not talked about. And that's really what your inference is. It's not that those things occur. Your argument is that it's not talked about. And I don't have descriptions of people who were recruited by the military that said that they were lied to or that this was nobody told them about those kinds of things. We don't have examples of people who were assaulted, for instance, or who did not qualify for the positions that they wanted, and then claim that they were tricked into or misled down the path. It would seem like we would have that sort of data. You make this one claim about how quickly people marry once they're in the Army, but you don't have any data on that. I guess you know a couple of people who have done that, but I don't know how widespread it is or how consistent it is. And you also seem to make the assumption that going into the military, you did say it either avoids or defers